All right, Jay, the red light's on. We've done this a couple times here. So let's start with here. Why don't you give us your quick 90-second pitch for investors about what you guys do?
Burble is a technology company that creates immersive environments that allow for a new kind of storytelling. So it's called minimally defined immersive storytelling, where we put an environment with sound and light that goes around the audience, and then they can imagine their own story as they're listening to our minimally defined stories.
Yeah, that's so cool. So let's dive into who is this type of audience for? Like what is it really, how does it work best? Who is this really for?
Well, it's for everybody. They'll, we're going to boil the ocean. But really, we've been talking to a lot of people. Our primary focus is on children on the autism spectrum because we have found that it's very effective for helping them regulate, just calm down. It sparks their imagination in a way that, say, gaming or video or phones, tablets don't. And we think that should be our primary market, but we're being pulled into a number of different areas as well. Education, we're talking mindfulness, meditation. I mean, you get into our immersive environment, you can put on a nice ambient environment and it really helps you calm yourself down and get into a really nice mindfulness place.
So maybe as much as we can you just kind of describe what this environment would look like? I mean, what is happening? I know we're in either an audio or a visual medium here, but how would you kind of describe it for somebody who hasn't seen
Sure.
one yet?
Our initial product is for consumers, and it's actually a tent that fits over a child's bed, and the tent has light and sound embedded in it. So when you start telling a story, we use an app, so it can be on a phone or a tablet. When you start a story, the story starts, and all of a sudden there are sound effects going on, and the lights are changing in conjunction with the story. So while you're telling the story, and it's very important, we tell a minimally defined story. So we're not giving them all the details. We're letting them imagine the details for themselves, but we're giving them enough of a story where they're following through. So, Jeff, if you think about it, back in the olden days, when we used to look at campfires and tell campfire stories, you'd be listening to a story, but everyone would be staring into the fire. And when you're looking at the fire, you're imagining all kinds of things in your mind. And that's what we're replicating with today's technology. And of course, AI is a big buzzword, but there is some really good AI that helps us provide this technology to the person.
And this technology, from what I've noticed, I think you guys call it MDI. Is that how you guys describe it? And what does that stand for?
Minimally defined immersion.
Mm,
So that's the storytelling part, but then the immersive environment is very important as well. But you can go, say, to a sensory room where you can get, lights and sounds and things like that, but they don't go with a story the way our MDI does.
yeah.
So that's the key.
So let's focus in a little bit more on that story because story could be all over the place, right? And you kind of hinted at it just a minute ago, but maybe let's go in a little bit deeper in that. What kind of stories are we talking about? Are these open source stories? Am I making a story somewhere? Are you guys providing the story? What does story mean in all of this?
With our app, we have a number of different areas. We have a number of categories of stories you can listen to. So we have sports stories, we have adventure stories. And so you can pick a story that we've already created for you. Or if you want, and this is going to be, in the near future, you'll be able to tell your own story through the app. And the lights and the sounds will be responding to your story. But that's coming up. I'm not claiming that we have that tech.
Yeah. And is there an age range that this is really for right now? I mean, where you guys kind of where you guys are right now, is there a certain age range that this works best?
It's funny, we do have an age range, 4 to 17, we find is kind of the sweet spot, but we're getting, we've had 20-something people in there that really like it, and then, I've used it myself, and so has our founder, Taylor and Amelia, and, we love it because you can get in there and really let your mind relax. I mean, one of our kind of slogans inside is "Free your mind."
Well, let's talk about this team a little bit. Let's maybe talk about where did this idea sort of come from? How did the team come together? How do you fit into all this? Yeah, tell us a bit about the origins of all this.
Sure. I was approached by Taylor Cole when I was a small business development center consultant for a technology SBA organization in Southern California. And he came to me as a client and said, I've got this idea about storytelling. I want to do it in a completely new way. And I said, "Oh, well, tell me about it." And so he kind of explained the idea. At that point, it was just a concept. He said, "I've got a way that we can tell stories that combines light, sound, and storytelling in a unique way. We would put an environment around people." And so I immediately went to that campfire analogy and I said, "Oh, yeah, I can see where you're going. It sounds great." So Taylor's a remarkable person. He's one of the top skydivers in the world. He's on the U.S. parachuting team. He's done thousands of base jumps and just a wild guy. And you would think a wild man like this would not be the chief technical officer of a naval surface warfare center, but he is.
Yeah.
He's a very, he's a genius in a lot of different ways. So he said, Jay, do you think this could be a business? And I said, I definitely think this could be a business. So as we talked about it, I started mentoring him through the SBDC. And as we started going, I took off from the SBDC to run a couple other companies and decided, to get away from the mentorship through the SBDC. I still mentor people because I
Hmm.
love it. But Taylor started running the company, maxed out his credit cards. He went to family and friends. He bought a bunch of equipment. He started putting things together. And the way it started, Jeff, was we actually had a little tent area that people
Hmm.
could fit into. It was a little bigger than a like a personal tent.
Hmm.
And we had lights and sounds. It was all kind of just thrown together. And then behind a curtain, we had a guy on a DMX board doing sounding and lighting while someone else is inside reading a story to the kids. And, it worked and the kids
Right.
loved it. So we said, okay, take it to the next level. Let's computerize this thing. So did that, started using a Raspberry Pi computer in the tent to do all the compute to handle the lights and sounds, organize everything. And now with our latest version, we've gone to holding all of the compute in the cloud and operating everything through a simple app that connects to the tent through Bluetooth.
That's cool. Yeah, it's almost like as you're describing this, and I'm starting to visualize it. It almost sounds like you're creating a like what's that Las Vegas dome for
Yeah,
concerts in somebody's bedroom.
yeah.
It's almost
Just a
you
little
know
fear.
yeah. And how do you? I mean, I guess right now, where are you guys in the planning of getting this in front of people, getting families, getting people to use it? Like, have you had any case studies or testimonials yet? Like, just where are you in the process of everything?
Well, we're a 9-year-old startup. So we've been in R&D forever. So that's kind of the next genesis of the story is, after several years of doing the R&D and doing hundreds of demonstrations and seeing the effect that it can have on people, I told Taylor at a board meeting, I said, Taylor, we don't have any money. We have wonderful responses. We have something that is of value to people, but there's no way for them to buy it.
Hmm.
We've got to be able to commercialize this thing. So I put together a plan. I said, here's what we'll do. I'll put some money in to keep the company afloat, and we'll do a crowdfunding round to fund the company, and we'll focus on the autism community, and we'll let the community be part of our corporate structure and become owners in the company. And so he thought that was a great idea. The board approved it. We went through a company reorg. I found out that after many years, at this point it was like 8 years of pretty lax accounting and everything else, we ended up having to clean up the whole company. So a lot more money went in. We got it all cleaned up.
Yeah.
We got all of our filings done with the SEC. We did a testing the waters campaign that was really good. I mean, we had over 300 people who said that they would invest in our company. So we said, wow,
Great.
this is great. And then we had over 500 people go on our waiting list to actually buy the tent. So we had proof of concept. proof of interest in the investment. We went live, and out of those 300, we only had a couple people sign up for the crowdfunding. So we're in the process of continuing to build out the crowdfunding, but we have had hundreds of demonstrations with a lot of people. We have a number of testimonials on our website, and I think we're on the right track. Things are
Yeah.
going well.
That's great. How do you think about scaling, production, distribution? Like how are you thinking about milestones, year 1, year 3, year 5? Like what kind of roadmap are you guys looking at right now?
Yeah, our current roadmap, Jeff, is pretty simple. We want to get 500 tents, a sizable number out in the market. Right now, I have some good news for you. We've just completed a video that shows a digital version of what our tent's going to look like, as well
Awesome.
as the app that actually operates it. It's about a 5-minute video, and it's going to be very cool. People are going to love it. Really
Nice.
brings the product to life. And we want to get those 500 tents out. We want to get them to our early adopters, which are either investors in the crowdfunding round or people who've signed up on the waiting list. And then once we get those 500 out, we're going to give them a month to just try it out, see what they like, see what they don't like. Then we'll go into redesign to come up with our first mass produced commercial product. And at that point, we want to take the first 500 off the mass production line, send them to those early adopters, ask them to go ahead and donate their original tents to a nonprofit in their community so that somebody who
Nice.
may not have the resources could have access to this. So we're still,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, still focused
Yeah, that's nice.
on community.
Yeah, it's nice to have this community element kind of all around it. I think, especially with the audience you're currently targeting, there's a ton of sort of goodwill amongst all of it, right? In terms of how you guys are kind of structuring everything. I think it's actually in a really genius way. And I love the way you guys are approaching and putting, fundraising in general with the crowd sort of at the center of all of this to allow people to really truthfully get their teeth into it, right? Into the project as a whole. What are some of the things that are keeping you kind of like, thoughts about like what is the is it partnerships with other companies? Is it manufacturing? Is it just fundraising in general? Like what is the thing that is just we've got to really focus on this right now with the company?
Well, we've been making a lot of progress lately, so we're talking to some people in the community that are very, very interested, and these are larger investors, not just $100, $500 investors,
Hmm.
which is our crowdfunding group. So we're getting a lot of positive feedback. We're making some real inroads, and I think you know my biggest problem is let's get the money in so we can get those 500 tents out.
Sure.
I think we're overcoming that. And the next thing is, okay, how are we going to source the manufacturer? We've got a manufacturer lined up in the United States. We want to onshore this. We don't want to have supply chain issues
Hmm.
going overseas. And so if you ask me what's keeping me up right now, it's nothing because I'm fully confident that we're getting there finally.
That's great. How do you protect this brand, this company? How do you protect the IP of it? How do you protect of it, somebody else coming and taking the idea potentially? But just walk us through a little bit about how you're at least thinking about that right now.
Sure. It sounds pretty simple. You build a tent, you put in some
Hmm.
lights, you put in some speakers, and you've got yourself. What we have is very, very complex. I mean, technologically, it's pretty tough. And we have some patents on minimally defined immersive environments and storytelling, both on the software side and on the hardware side. So, we're protecting ourselves through the traditional means, but I think, Jeff, we're a mission-driven company. We're not looking to make a fortune off of every tent we sell. So we drove our price down to very low numbers. So if somebody wanted to replicate what we're doing and invest in the technology and what it would take to actually do what Burble's doing, they wouldn't be able to make any money. So I think we're protected in two ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. And how do you make money, I guess? Obviously, so there's the tent component. Is it just direct to consumer? Is it a subscription to the app? Just walk us through just how do people actually buy Burple?
Yeah, there are two components, Jeff. Number one, you need to buy the tent, right? So that's
Hmm.
$500, $499, $500. And then we have a basic app for $5 a month that controls the tents. So there's our recurring revenue model. We have a $5 a month subscription fee. And then as we go along, we'll be offering premium subscription. We'll have some little things that you might want to buy to improve the experience, as we go through. Kind of like if you look at the video game model, you have a video game and then you decide, oh, well, I want this little toy over here.
Hmm.
So the microtransactions, I think that'll play a part in it as well. So we do have a recurring revenue strategy. But Jeff, when you think about it, there are 1.5 million families in the United States with a child on the autism spectrum. There are 33 million kids in the 4 to 17 age.
Yeah.
If we sold 1.5 million tents at $500, that's a lot
Yeah.
of money.
Sure.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
2.5 million
Yeah.
kids or families paying $5 a month. That's a nice, healthy recurring revenue.
Hmm.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
we're going to hit those numbers, but that kind of gives you an idea of how big the market is and what we might be able to do.
Yeah, there's definitely some scale in here. No doubt about it. How are you right now sort of navigating? Is there regulatory issues? Is this a medical device at all? Like how do you sort of describe it, and are there any hurdles to cross in, in the product at all or in the company?
Well, there are a couple of things that you got to keep in mind when you're creating something like this. Number one is, potential liability issues.
Hmm.
Make
Yeah.
sure the product is pretty bulletproof. You're dealing with kids on the autism spectrum. Some of
Right.
them can be pretty active. So we have everything sewn inside the tent structure itself, and nothing is available to really be pulled out. So you worry about that, of course. Originally, Jeff, we're a product that's built for the consumer market. We're not
Hmm.
going with any medical claims or anything like that, but we do have a number of leading neuro researchers that want to use our tent to do some studies and things like that. And as we start progressing down that path, I think we might go down a regulatory pathway so that we can get a CPT code and be able to get insurance reimbursement on the product.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely probably some big steps. Probably has much different timelines, different everything. I would imagine the entire business has a different pitch deck at the end of the day. So right now, I mean, where do you see? Well, actually, I'm gonna back up before I go into that. Are you thinking though that because there's a spectrum, autism has a spectrum, does Burple fit into a particular part of a spectrum or a different,
No.
or is it kind of really inclusive to everybody?
And that's kind of where what I said earlier is really all kids love it.
Hmm.
The reason we went for the autism community first is number one, we were going to do a crowdfunding campaign. So I thought that would be a great community because it's a close
Hmm.
community. I mean, if I'm
Yeah.
the parent of an autistic child, I probably have some friends who are also part of a group. And so that all works together. But a kid could use it. And like I say, it's not limited to kids. Anybody would want one of these. So I can see it going into mindfulness and meditation at some point for adults.
Hmm.
That's down the ways, but you know, we're a technology company first. The autism market is our first market that we're serving, but I could see, Burble experience rooms inside airports, inside hotels for parents who are traveling with children on the spectrum. You know, you don't want kids running around the hotel lobby, but if you have a nice place for them or anyone who wants to relax. So I see
Yeah.
a lot of opportunities out there.
Yeah, that is interesting. I just flew not too long ago, and they have those pods. They have pods for in the airports now, and you're like, oh yeah, I could just go sit in there for a minute. So yeah, you're not that far off from all this. Let's flip over a little bit just on entrepreneur vibe, right? So you guys, you're not a young startup. How do you, for yourself personally, sort of navigate the ups and downs, the bad day, the great day, the oh my god, the grind of just entrepreneur. I mean, you mentor other founders as well, as what it sounds like. So, just what do you do to just not get too high and not get too low with the company?
Yeah. Well, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. That's why I was mentoring entrepreneurs before, and I've had some really big successes, and I've buried a lot of companies. So I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and
Yeah.
I think that's, it's all about perspective and
Hmm.
how do you look at things. And at the end of the day, I see Burble as a company that's going to do a lot of good in the world. And that's why I invested in it. And that's why I took on the CEO role. That's what keeps me going is just knowing that ultimately this is going to be big
Yeah.
and it's gonna be worthwhile. We're not inventing, another pocket fisherman or something like that. We're inventing something that's gonna bring real comfort to families who desperately need it. I mean, parents are spending a lot of money trying to figure out how to keep their kids engaged, how to
Hmm.
provide for them, how to give them peace of mind. So that's a lot of what we're doing. And then, Jeff, another thing that's very important for people to know is if they go to our website and look at our blog page, for example, they'll see literally over 100 articles on autism. And we're always searching for the latest findings, the latest treatments, the latest observations, whatever is pertinent to the community. And I'm working with a group right now that wants to build a global online platform for the autism community where people who may have a child who's just been diagnosed and they want to talk to other people who have been through the process, well, they can just go online and find people with a similar and start connecting one to one or one to many. And, technology is a wonderful thing and let's use it to connect people.
Do you see yourself or see any version of this of moving into a community driven Discord group where people can connect and maybe share stories, share back and forth, have a, we just created a story, a sports story over here. Maybe you guys might like that. Do you see some version of that down the road?
That's a great idea. We haven't really talked about that per se for Burble
Hmm.
itself.
Yeah.
'Cause that would be separate from this autism community platform where people would be talking to each other. I could certainly see that. In fact, I'm sure our CTO, Amelia, has some ideas along that subject already. And so you asked earlier about the team, and I
Hmm.
a little bit about Taylor, but Amelia, to me, is our secret weapon.
And she's the CTO, right? Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
The CTO, and actually she fills the role of COO as well because she's doing a lot of the operations work. So she does all the tech dev. When you see this coming Loom video that explains the whole thing, she's the one narrating it and she's the one who put all that together. But really, she's really brilliant at how she can integrate technology and a purpose. She was the worldwide director of innovation for an international company that married sports and technology. So she's been through this challenge before. She's just utilizing it for a different purpose now.
So there must be a, you correct me if I'm wrong, and this is me kind of thinking out. This is not my stock questions over here, right? This is me going off cuff a little bit here. Is there a balancing act that you guys are walking from? I'm assuming not being on a device the whole time, right? Because it's firing, dopamine, it's firing different things, right? Just holding this device all the time to also just relaxing and calming, right? So it feels like on the tech side, this would probably be a good question for her at some point is it must be a fine line of tech not always in the hands, but also relaxing. Like that feels like that must be a really interesting balancing act to not let the tech go, too far, not let it be so relaxing that maybe you just fall asleep. I don't know, it's boring, let's say, right? Like it feels like that must be a real tightrope to walk.
Well, actually, she's thought of that already, and there are a number of different things you can do inside the app that will allow you to do things. So, if you do want to go to sleep or you want to relax, she has a mode that you can put it on that will create an ambient environment,
Mm,
and it'll just loop, and you can put it on a timer and say, go off it, turn this off at a certain time. So there are a number of factors like that that she's already considered. And I think the key is to make the technology work for you and not make you have to do things to have the technology work. So she's tried to make it as intuitive as possible, but at the same time as hands off as possible because you don't want to be
right.
sitting in there doing this while you're
Yeah,
supposed to be enjoying this.
right. Yeah, yeah. No, I think that it seems like just in general, like that is this balancing act of hardware environment, even hardware to software, just that balancing act seems like it's going to be always something that I would assume you guys have to think about with new versions, new things, as you guys add new, it feels like that's probably going to be a real foundational piece of like, does it do what we want it to do at the end of the day, right? And not hurt one or the other. So obviously mentioned the website a little bit. Let's talk just about fundraising in general. So I know you're running a campaign right now. What does fundraising sort of look like? Are there metrics you're trying to hit? And what would that use of funds even do? What would happen if funding comes in?
Well, our initial money, obviously will be going into getting those 500 tents out. So
Hmm.
I really look at the funding is get the first 500 tents finished, out the door, in the hands of the people, get the customer testimonials back. They should, based upon our experience, they should be overwhelmingly positive.
Hmm.
Utilize that as the impetus for raising the value of the company and then going back to the crowd and saying, we've got this success. Now it's time to scale. Let's go ahead and do another round at a higher valuations. That's kind of how I see this unfolding. And
Yeah, and do you see multiple raises though? Like, do you see as you guys are kind of growing and shifting, like there would be your valuation goes up, maybe do another raise, go back to the crowd? Is that what you're kind of seeing these sort of steps up in raising?
so we're in a crowdfunding round now, and obviously this is all projections. None of
Hmm.
this is written in stone, and I'm not saying that it's going to happen. There are no guarantees, but basically, we want to do the crowdfunding round. We're Reg CF, a crowdfunding round. The next step, I think, is to do a Reg A plus,
Hmm.
and that's what they call the IPO on-ramp round, right? So what we want to do is raise the valuation, bring in enough money so we get to scale. I think, with our pro forma and the way I'm looking at it, Jeff, and the fact that we're going to keep the organization pretty small, we can utilize a lot of technology to overcome traditional customer service issues and things like
Hmm.
that. We can become, cash, and we need to raise a bunch more money. And
Hmm.
what I'm looking at is the next round after the Reg A plus is not really a funding round per se, but I would love to see us do a direct listing onto one of the exchanges and
Sure.
become a public company to give liquidity to our shareholders and at the same time give us access to the kind of capital that public companies have when we really need to blow this thing up.
Right.
I think we will.
Yeah, and I guess in your guys' mind, I mean, we've hinted a lot at this. Like, what is the scale, holy grail of like, oh, we could be all autism, but in all airports, is it just this kind of different verticals that the company Burple can fit in? It could just go into these multiple different verticals. Is that really what you guys see as like
Ul-
that is scale in our world?
Ultimately, and we've been having a lot of discussions about this, ultimately, we're a technology company that is implementing a specific technology that addresses several different areas. So we're talking right now about creating like a neuro division of Burble, which would handle neurodiversity. So it could be autism, it could be ADHD, it could be, a number of different neurodivergent types.
Hmm.
And each one would be geared towards them. So that would be an entire division. But then when you talk about the mindfulness, the relaxation. I mean, you look at there are a number of apps on the market, Calm, Headspace,
Yeah.
a number of apps out there that help you meditate and get mindfulness,
Hmm.
and those are billion-dollar companies.
Right.
So if we can take that concept to the next level through Burble, then how great would that be? And then, we are looking at, partnering with people. And if there's, a group, say an education group that wants to implement this, then maybe we would be licensing the technology. So
Hmm.
that's another play. So I can see us going in a number of directions. So what we're talking about now is making, the first division would be autism because we've built so much credibility and trust in that community.
Hmm.
But then we would grow into other areas as we see opportunity, and then we would bring in people to run each of those different areas.
Right. That makes sense. So you mentioned the website earlier. Where should we send people? Let's just kind of go back, kind of circle the wagons here a little bit. Let's talk about, yeah, where should we send people and how can they get in if they're excited about what they're hearing?
Burblecreativity.com is the website, and that's very simple, burblecreativity.com. And then from there, you can get on our wait list to buy the tents. You can learn more about investing in the company through our crowdfunding round. We have a contact sheet, so if you have an idea, you can shoot us a quick contact. And then we also have my email and phone number right on the website. So if anyone wants to
Awesome.
contact me, go ahead. I'm open for business.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, Jay, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you're in the middle of a raise and a lot of stuff going on. For everybody listening, if you guys are interested, like I said, go to the show notes. I'll have all the links for everybody to click on stuff. And I encourage all of you guys, go jump in. Very fascinating project. I love what you guys are working on, and super big fan over here. So, Jay, good job on this. Love it. And I can't wait to see how much you guys grow.
Thanks, Jeff. Looking forward to it. Every day's
Awesome.
an
Thanks so much. It certainly is. All right. Thanks so much. All right.